blizzard conditions. Driving through Providence and Pawtucket, heading up to Berklee College of Music. This is my commute for a semester before I ended up moving up here and stopped skipping class because I couldn't deal with the traffic. It's your buddy Jesse Humphrey. It's After the Gig. I'm on my way up to Boston, Massachusetts, to my alma mater. Is it alma mater or alma mater? I don't know. Berklee College of Music, to go talk to my buddy Jonathan Allman. He is a drummer. He is a Berklee professor and instructor, and he works in the basement of the Uchida building, which is the drum department. So we're gonna hang out down in his office at Berklee and have our conversation and do the podcast. It's the first podcast of the year. I am very excited to get to do it in person. I haven't been to Berklee in, it's 2025. I left Berklee in 2011, so it's been 14 years. I've been I've walked around, of course, but I haven't been in a Berklee building in 14 years. If you're not signed up for the newsletter has been one of my favorite things that came out of 2024. It's basically just me, laying it all out there, different aspects of my career and different things that have helped me over the years. It's insight into how a working musician thinks and how they approach it and how they can make it work over the years. And that's a nice thing for non-musicians and fans and stuff to read, but also for parents that might have kids that are interested in music. I think it's really, really beneficial to them. And also musicians, high school, college, even beyond that are looking for some insights and some experience from someone that's kind of been around and done it. Not done everything, but, has experience in the world of this kind of stuff and logistics around it and whatever. It's pretty beneficial, in my humble opinion. So sign up for that, and you can become a supporter, a patron on Patreon, and there'll be videos throughout the year of that, and you can sign up and see everything that's already there. And that's fun. It's a nice little party over there, and I will see you soon, guys. The next you see me, I will be sitting in a room at Berklee talking to Jonathan Allman. So I'll see you soon. Bye. We are here in Boston. Fenway Park is to our right. I'm not going to turn the camera. And these are the Fens here. You don't want to be at the Fens late at night. And we're on Boylston. This is what was formerly the Music Conservatory, which Berklee bought because tuition is so expensive. On the right here is the 1140 building, which is also part of the drum department. It's the fancy building on the right with the flag on it. And in front of us, this huge building on the left is brand new. It's apartments or something, who knows? But this whole block, this is the Berklee block here where they bought everything up. I might go into the bookstore and get I've always wanted a Berklee sweatshirt, but I never got one. There's Berklee College of Music, that's the Berklee Beach, 150 Boylston, where the Performance Center is. And I always find a spot on this little strip on the left, but it doesn't look there's a mattress on the road. I'm gonna go up a little bit and see what I can see. Maybe I can get really lucky and park right in front of the building I'm supposed to be at, which is the Uchida building, which is up here on the left. Okay, we're looking for a spot. Is this a spot? Did I just find a spot first try? Is this a spot? No shit. All right, now I gotta decipher all these parking signs. Let's see. This says commercial vehicle, so this is not a spot. But if I can find a spot in front of it. Yeah, sorry, buddy. Oh, buddy boy. Insane. Oh, that is, this is the building. This is my building right here. This is where I'm going. Look at this. This is a parking spot. And that's the building I'm going to. The Uchida building. Let's go and find Jonathan and do this podcast. Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is great. Thanks for taking the time. Did you come in just for this?
No, we had to.
You have stuff to do?
Yeah, we got to get the spring semester going.
Yeah.
Because we have to make sure that however many kids are coming in to audition, that there's room on the faculty schedules.
Sure.
Because already the students who have been here, the 12-week, the full-time students, they already signed up for all their spring classes. So now we have to maneuver the incoming students in. It's not as much as fall, but it's still a good number of students who come. A lot of people forego their fall semester coming in the spring, or, sometimes schools don't, in America, it's like you graduate high school in May and then you get ready to go to school in September. It doesn't always translate that way in international programs.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like a lot of times there's a gap year. They intentionally do a gap year.
Yeah. I probably,
which I think is nice.
Yeah, I feel like when I went to college, it just, a lot of this that makes sense stuff was not. No, it was part of it. It was like, where are you going when you graduate?
It's all this big rush. Where am I going to apply? All these deadlines and stuff. And you're still worried about your high school finals and the graduation and your friends and all this. There's too much going on in such a condensed amount of time. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I was not an organized high school student. And I needed that time. I went to a community college for a couple of years and just kind of try to figure some stuff out.
I was very lucky. I went to, I'm from Boston, and so I went to Boston Latin. And Boston Latin, which is usually ranked, the top public school, or one of the top public schools in the country.
Right.
It was really hard there. I wasn't a great high school student, but not being a great high school student in one of the top high schools, you're not really understanding of how they are preparing you for college. So when I went to college, I actually had no issues with the workload or organization, just because it was already ingrained in me from high school. But I watched a lot of kids struggle with that, and it was just like, oh, well, this is just the next year, kind of thing. But I remember the funny thing was, my mom worked at Northeastern for 30 years. So she was smart enough to go, I'm not going to try to figure out how to pay for college for my kids, so I'm going to go work at a university. And so me and my brother got to go to Northeastern for free, which was great. So my whole time leading through high school was, I'm going to Northeastern. And I wasn't a very good student. And it didn't hit me until the end of junior year, senior year, where my mom's like, yes, you can go to Northeastern for free, but you have to get into Northeastern.
You still have to get in.
You have to get in. I was like, oh. Shit. I didn't even, I thought it was just it was a total, you just kind of go to the next step. So I really had to luckily with it's not what it is now, the competitive, nature of getting into college now.
Right.
But luckily I got in, but I got in as a general studies student. I didn't even get into the major that I applied for. So luckily I got in, and then once I was there, I just kind of...
What was the major you originally applied for?
I think I tried to get a business, I would try to go in for business or something. When I was in high school, I was I just want to make a lot of money. You know what I mean? And then very quickly, once I got there, it was I want to play drums and be an artist and do that stuff. So I got into a communications major with a minor in marketing and then a minor in photography. And then when I went back and got my master's, I got my master's in photography.
Yeah. Yeah, because like how you've kind of encompassed, or what I've seen of you, of your social media and things like that, everything kind of has to do with one another.
Yeah.
Like I really like the aesthetic that you do with your photography, like the super wide angle, those really tight spaces,
Yeah.
like that editing, like that's super cool and it's rad. And then you have this whole aspect that's like, you're like modding drums and modding cymbals and doing this building and other physical creative thing that all just kind of has to do with one another, which I think is interesting.
It's super fun. You know, I grew up in a family of artists. My dad and brother are both sculptors.
Interesting.
And my mom is a photographer and a painter. So we all I grew up in this world where like understanding arts and going to support each other in their, you know, art shows and stuff like that. So there was always a really strong feeling of like being an artist is, you know, what it means to be an artist, and you know how money isn't, you know, a big part of it is this passion that you have. And so I did the photography thing and I did, you know, the music route. But the interesting thing was, you know, with social media and stuff like that, it was like, I always was like, I never had to think about what I was going to post. It's like, oh, what am I going to post today? It was like, my whole page is just my love of this instrument, you know, that I play, and capturing it in sort of unique places. But then working with my brother on modifying stuff, there was always this sort of like feeling like I have all this equipment that's broken and stuff like that. What can we do with it? And it always had this like this purpose of not only being aesthetically cool, but also maybe bringing a new sound, you know, a sonic sound to the table. So the cool part about these modification things that I do is they always get recorded. So I go into the studio with my producer and we record them in all different sort of formats, and he keeps them on a hard drive and then kind of uses them for, you know, whatever songs. And then it's sort of, it when somebody says something gets a new life, like it really does get a whole new life, you know, something that it originally was not meant, you know, or was not originally purposed to do. And the cool thing about working with my brother, I don't know, I think I've ever told you this, but my brother is sort of a very successful sculptor.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't.
He actually, did you see Mad Max Fury Road?
Yeah.
So he made the guitar for that.
No shit.
Yeah. Like he was in Australia for 4 months building art pieces.
That's so rad.
So there was like 4 or 5 artists that went out there because not George Miller was like, you know, we can build everything, but we kind of need this aesthetic, this sort of like, what is it, like, not dystopian, maybe just like this, like, you know, dystopian like world in which everything that they use is repurposed. Exactly what my brother does in his art is to repurpose. So like the steering wheels with the baby heads, that was a sculptor in, I think, Belgium or somewhere, the Netherlands maybe, who makes these really weird sculptures with these baby heads. And so that was his thing. They were on the, you know, they became the grenades on the spears and stuff like that. And my brother, they sort of, he had done a couple pieces, but the one they wanted him to work on was, they're like, we have this guy, he's like blind and he's, you know, chained to the front of this truck with speakers, and we want him to like play a guitar. Oh, and that guitar has to shoot fire. So like he had to put all that together. And the coolest part about that is you can't see it because they sort of like, they like CGI'd a lot of that movie. I mean, it is the actual props, but they soften it and it kind of lives in that art. I mean, that sort of aesthetic that they go with.
Sure.
The, you know, the bright color, the, you know, the red and yellow colors. But he actually, because I'm his brother, he actually on side of it, right underneath the body of the guitar, the like pick guard is a Zildjian symbol. They obviously had to take the Zildjian out of it, but like it's a Zildjian symbol. And he was like, that was my nod to you. And then it was pretty cool. It definitely, he got to make a bunch of commissioned guitars after that. But
they were kind of like that.
But that guitar really did like shoot fire like 50, 60 feet in the air. Like, it was crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So like my life with drums and music and art and all this stuff sort of all blends together, and just like the social media stuff, it's like, this is just my opportunity to, capture it.
That's how you share it, yeah.
And just a lot of people, whether they like drums or not, they're just like, I kind of like a cool picture.
Yeah, the aesthetic.
Yeah, this kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, since your family is super artistic, even just knowing the possibility of that life and that world is out there, and being kind of indoctrinated in it, and then also growing up in a city like Boston and being around a lot of different people is just like kind of a kindling for that that type of life.
And it was pretty cool. My father instilled in both my brother and I that, like, your art and your passion shouldn't necessarily be the thing that makes you money. If it does, great, but it should always be this sort of escape from reality.
Yeah.
So,
because a lot of times when people try to turn the thing they love to do into the thing that makes them money, they end up hating it, because it's not,
get burnt out.
Yeah, and it's not about, like, it's not about doing the thing that you love. Like, if you love making cakes and you decide to have a cake store, and you're in there making cakes all day, but someone has to get the business.
Yeah.
Someone has to do the books. Someone has to do and that falls on you. And that makes you hate it.
Especially, and even at Berklee, we get a lot of kids who, their foot is half out the door when they graduate to go to LA. Mm-hmm. They're like, I'm going to LA, I'm going to go get that pop gig. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we want that to happen for you. But, a lot of times I check in with them 3-5 years later, and they're like, nah, I mean, I'm still kind of playing, but because they get so burnt out from trying to get this gig, and they also have to pay rent and all, and all of these other things, and now they're just taking gigs that just pay $50 or $75 or doing whatever they can just to make ends meet. Who has the motivation to, continue playing the drums, when you're, like, forced to just take everything and anything? It sort of reminds me, I got my master's in photography. So I went to school to study photography, and I would take pictures of things that I wanted to, and then I didn't want to. And then I got out of school and said had to make a living using this photography degree and try to get jobs. And I was taking pictures of things that, like, I didn't really want to take pictures of, but that was what was paying the bills, kind of thing. And there came a point where
what kinds of things would you?
Well, like, companies would hire me to, like, photograph, like, construction projects from, like, their infancy to, like, so that when other companies would hire them, they'd be like, well, this is what we had to do in order to get the space ready. So it was like progress photos of like this, of a building that was under construction. Or I had to go take, pictures of products that, rent the lighting equipment, and then go take pictures of a product that I don't have any, like, emotional,
bunch of jelly beans.
Stuff like that. I'm not saying that I didn't like to do it, but it was like, it's like not to switch subjects, but, like, my brother works at a company that does really, really cool projects, and a lot of the times when you see the final product, when it's done, you're like, wow, that's insanely cool. But his job may be welding, 50, bars together like this to create a frame. He's good at it. Mm-hmm. Does he want to weld 50 bars together every single day? Or does he want to weld, like, a cool flame-throwing guitar?
Right.
So what ends up happening is, at the end of the day, when he would love to go into his studio and make art, he's like, I just want to go sit on my couch and watch TV. And that was the same with me. And it actually took years later for me to be like, I love taking pictures of drums, and so I'm going to do that and capture them from different angles and stuff like that. And my love of photography came back. And so, kind of going back to what my dad said was, sometimes you don't want the thing that you're so passionate about and love so much to be the thing that you rely on to make a living. So with that being said, I went and got, jobs at Berklee, or, working at a marketing firm and doing that. So at the end of the day, it was like, okay, my bills are paid. I got my health benefits, my 401k and all that stuff. And now when I go home, I'm super excited to play drums. I'm ready to go out for the night and play with my friends and try to make a career out of this drum thing. So it was kind of
Build
like
it from a comfortable
taking that financial stress off the table. And so, I mean, I have not lost my love for playing drums in 25 years.
That's
like
great.
It never wanes. In fact, like every year it gets that much more like enjoyable because it's this thing that I look forward to. It just so happens that at Berklee, it works out that I can kind of like knock out two things at the same time.
Do you find that the kids coming in, like, you know, when I was coming in, there was a lot of new ways to approach playing the drums, like the drum and bass stuff was getting really popular, and Jojo Mayer and things like that. And it's kind of, the elements of that have kind of found its way into pop music and different things. And do you find that the new kids coming in and being around that constantly helps with that motivation and that inspiration?
So right now, the big thing for students is sort of mastering the knowledge of electronics with regards to drums, because they all want big pop gigs. They all want, you know, need to know how to be an MD and run the SPDs and run all, and, you know, do all the production and run Ableton Live and all that stuff. So we've had to bring in, you know, sort of faculty who lived in that world for a long time and who can now teach those students that, because the big thing now is you can't just be a drummer.
Right.
You need to be able to be an MD at this point. You need to be hired enough to be able to kind of run the whole show for that artist, and make sure that like everybody has a part to play, you know, when they get on stage, which is great. It kind of like, but you know, the school here, the basis of this school is it's like a jazz forward school. Jazz is the foundation of the curriculum here, which is awesome. And no matter if you're like a metal drummer or anything, that foundation is going to make you a solid player.
Sure.
My motivation to play drums is often crushed when I come here and I see what these kids are able to do. And I'm like,
It's nuts.
I could practice for the rest of my life and not ever be as talented as these kids.
Yeah.
However, what I do, my living is made in the studio, being a studio musician.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff isn't necessary for the world that I live in.
No.
They want a solid player who can give good grooves and play with what is necessary for the song. And the producer and the engineer do not want to have to sit for hours and chop up my drum parts if I'm doing fills all over the place. So
Also in like interpreting language as far as like what they want and the vibe and stuff,
Yeah.
being able to interpret that and deliver it is such a skill.
Totally. And I worked with a producer, I've been making records with him for over a decade. And it's like, even when an artist comes in, they're like, yeah, we want to record a record. And, you know, I have some drummers I like to use. He's like, if you're going to make the record with me, I'm going to use Jonathan. Because there's no sort of money that can you make up for the fact that you have this relationship with a player that you know exactly what they're going to do, you know exactly what they're going to do, exactly what you ask for, that what they're going to give you is consistent, and you can make the record. And a lot of times, like at our point in our career, it's like I don't want to have to deal with anything other than that. I want to get the drums on this track, and I know the person that I want to do that. So, not for nothing, that just takes like years of building relationships with people and working together on projects. So there were many years where I was, you know, like very weary of the fact that I was like, there's so many better drummers here that I'm going to lose all my gigs to. And what I sort of found was I have a place where my role is really valuable, and I'm doing okay, and I get a lot of opportunities because of that. And
I had a similar experience.
And I can tell the kids that.
Yeah.
It's very competitive, but find your niche and be confident with, you know, what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
And You know David Garibaldi?
Of course, yeah.
We brought him here one time to do like a clinic or math class, and like some student was like, "Hey, what's like your advice for like getting ahead in the industry, or getting gigs, or like whatever the question was?" And his answer was, "Stop watching YouTube." He's like, because when you watch YouTube, you start comparing yourself to everything else that's out there. I think he used YouTube because he probably didn't have Instagram or something like that.
Right.
He's like, your worst thing is to compare yourself to somebody else who's doing something, and then you start to question where your value is.
Well, the important thing is you're not doing anything. You're just watching other people do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I had a very, very similar situation where I was just like, I am not as good as half of the other drummers here.
Yeah.
But what I'm noticing is that like these other kids don't necessarily, they're not being super creative. They're not working well with other with songwriters. But they can't sing. So it was me and like maybe one other kid that were like really good singers and drummers at the same time. So like everything came down to me and him, just getting those types of gigs. But this other dude I'm talking about was an incredible networker, just the nicest person, had all of like, he just could play everything. He could read great. He could do all that stuff. So it was like, man, I can't do that. I can sing and play, but I have this rawness about me, but he's the polished version.
Mm-hmm.
So I just spent a lot of time like just kind of chasing after that. And then I was just like, I just got to stop. I just got to just not think like that. And I need to follow what I'm doing and just put the blinders on.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think that comes with maturity and age. I think
100%.
I think that these kids are in a unfortunate situation where everything that they see is basically a comparison on social media, and that's all that they have to look at, whereas you and I have been doing this for many, many years, and it's consistent, and we've made those relationships with people, and we've built the trust of other people. So most likely we will get the call.
And there's plenty of work out there.
There's plenty of work. One of the interesting things when you were talking about that was, I talk to students. I mean, these students come here, and from a perspective of, are they good at their instrument? No question.
No question.
They can do things that are unmatched, at all times. The thing we try to teach them is the other half of the hustle and the perspective of how you're going to get work and how you're going to keep work. Because you move on to the industry, if you're someone who keeps kind of fucking up, you're going to get that black line under your name, like, nah, you don't want to work with that person.
Right.
So a couple examples that I have of that are, when a student comes to me and says, it's final exam time. They didn't sign up for their final exam, or they missed their final exam altogether. And they come to, oh man, I'm really like, sorry, my mind hasn't been there. And, every excuse that we've heard it. I've used them, kind of thing. And it's like, okay, you're at Berklee, you're in this protective bubble. We're going to make it work for you, regardless of what happened. You missed your final exam, you can sign up next semester. You got like 6 weeks in the next semester to come make your final exam. You're fine. It's not that. It's when you leave here. It's when you say, I missed that audition.
It's gone.
It's gone. Oh, that person's going to be like, you're not going to get that call back. And I say, and I tell them exactly what you said. There's two people that show up for the gig. There's me and there's you. You're their first choice because you can do some incredible stuff on the drums. I can play it. It'll be fine, but it may just be a real basic version of what you're doing. But I show up, I'm on time, I'm professional, easy and open-minded to
nice
deal with.
Nice to be around.
Nice to be around. Who are they going to take? You didn't even show up for the audition. You were late.
Yeah.
And you just go in thinking you didn't have to prepare yourself for any of this. Who are they going to take on the road with you? Not the one that they have to keep checking on the hotel room to see if you're even like there kind of thing.
Right.
So they start to get it's like, yes, everybody here can play the part that's required for the gig. Everybody here. It's just a matter of, can you bring that other stuff?
Right. Are you a good roommate?
Are you a good person to be around?
Yeah.
Do they have to worry about you on the road or at the gig or anything, And the biggest part is they're not going to go, hey, don't worry about it. We'll make it up, next time kind of thing. That's what we do here. That's what you're paying to be here. We're not here to like make an example out of you. We're here to just train you for the next step.
Yeah.
And another example that I have was pretty funny. And this is sort of the mindset of my mindset as a drummer at 45 years old and the mindset of an 18-year-old kid who's insanely good at playing music. So we had Steve Jordan come in and do a clinic or a master class or something.
Yeah.
And he was in this room and had all these the funniest part was half the students were sitting there. This was a while ago and oh, we got Steve Jordan. And this was when I think Omar Hakim was the chair and he was just Steve Jordan's out there. Half the kids didn't even know who Steve Jordan,
really
was. Yeah, because it's so far removed from, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so he gets up there and he was like, I want to tell you about
I want to play one groove for 15 minutes.
What? I'm going to play. He was like, I'm going to play this groove. And he does the Beat It groove, Michael Jackson does.
Yeah.
And he's playing it and it is right. It's just so good. I'm just like, oh my God. And the kids are like, that's cool. And I was like, does anybody know what this groove is from? Some people kind of knew. And he's like, okay. So when the producer says, this is what we want, or the engineer says, this is what we want on the record, this is what we want. Locked in. And he's like, all right, I'm going to invite some students up here to play this groove. Who wants to volunteer to play that groove? Brings a student up. A student gets up there. He's like, do you remember the groove? Yeah. All right, student's like, yeah, it's easy. Don't worry about it. I'm a superstar drummer, which you are.
Right.
Totally.
Right.
Gets up there.
Yeah.
He goes, stop.
Yeah.
He's like, what? And he's like, you didn't play that groove that I said to groove. Okay, do it again. And it was like, no, next drummer. 4 drummers came up, and they could not
Keep it in the
hold
pocket.
that groove without throwing something in to kind of make their presence known, or hey,
Try to impress the room.
Steve Jordan doesn't care.
Yeah.
And the producer's gonna be like, I do not want you to play that da-da-da, do-do-do, da-da-da.
Right.
No skips on the kick drum or anything like that.
Because the guitar's doing that.
The guitar's doing it for whatever
And I
reason.
don't want
Doesn't even matter. And so, again, another reason why this is that maturity that you have to go, hey, you're playing a role, a piece to this puzzle, and your piece is to do this thing and be a robot. Give it your sort of not necessarily your style, but give it
Your
that
feel.
confidence,
Yeah,
that
your
feel. It's to a little like sass to that groove, but do not change the groove because that's what is being called for the record. And so, again, another reason why I say this is why I get a lot of studio work, because when the producer says do this, I go, sounds great, let's do that. They want natural acoustic drums on the record. If they didn't want that, they would just do that beat in the computer and move on, to something else. But again, it's this feeling of what I grew up watching Jeff Porcaro and Steve Gadd and Hal Blaine, you know, these people who played on these records, and their beats didn't change. I don't think we ever talked about, but I actually learned how to play drums to listening to my brother was super into 80s and early 90s hip hop.
Okay.
So like Grand Poobah, like EPMD.
So you're playing straight up grooves.
So with the beats that I learned never changed, ever. That was the groove of the song, and it didn't change. And so this sort of foundation of like, hey, you can have a dope song and have the beat never change. Sign me up. Where do I sign this?
Yeah.
Kind of for this job. And I think the problem is now when, you know, your band, for instance, or my band, when we're on stage, everybody is playing a part to that song. When I go to some of these senior recitals or some of these like final exams or recital prep, it's like I'm watching 5 kids who all are trying to be the thing that the audience is looking at, rather than being this cohesive unit that's, you know, providing the foundation for the singer or whatever. It's like, look what I can do over here. Yeah. Look what I can do over here. Look what I can do over here. And so I think that's just an unfortunate side effect of what is seen on the internet. And so when a lot of people like message me and they're like, why do you only take pictures of drums and at the studio? Why don't you ever post videos of what you're like, you know, how you play? And it's like, because I don't want to.
I don't have anything to prove.
I don't need to show you that I am a great drummer. And honestly, the beats that I'm going to take video in the studio, you'll probably have something to say about that.
Damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Exactly. So I just kind of, I think, but that comes with being okay with you and your own skin kind of thing, and being like, you know what, I've done pretty well, and people still trust in me to play that stuff. And yeah, I might not get, you know, the giant pop gig in LA, but I'm going to make a lot of cool records, and I'm going to be able to provide, you know, and survive in living in Boston kind of thing.
Yeah. Whenever I listen back to my playing or back to a show or something like that, my thought, I'm very critical of myself and my playing. Like, it's always when I'm trying to overdo it.
Yeah.
It's always when I'm playing too loud. It's always when I'm overplaying, maybe tried to go for something that I wasn't necessarily all the way practiced on. And that's, whenever I hear myself do that, it's just like, just why? Why did you do it? Why did you do it? And you know, the time passes, you have the gig anyway, but it's like, those are always the things that I am working on. Yeah. And it's always a struggle. It's always been a struggle for me, because I grew up playing like prog rock or learning from prog rock and stuff like that. So when I came here, it was just like, stop doing what you're doing, just simplify it, slow down, chill out, play the song, learn how to write out a chart, learn how to read a chart, learn how to, you know, be a supportive role or a supportive member of the music. It's like, it's not about you. It's not about you. Stop thinking it's about you. Yeah. So
it's pretty funny. I was in the studio last night. We're mixing a record, and I was listening, and for like 75% of the song, like it was just a straight 4 on the floor, like tight groove. It was like a pop dance song, and my producer usually says, give me a pass, give me another pass, and then on the next pass, give me like transitional fills, or give me something just so I have it. Kind of thing. And so we were kind of going through those, and 75% of the song was just this 4 on the floor. Obviously, in a chorus section, maybe the hi-hat came up or something like that, but really straight. Everything was on the grid, super straight. And then at the end, he wanted to like add, you know, a fill. And my fills are as, you know, rudimentary as they come. Like Boone, Debby Boone, you know, something like that. But there was like 3 fills, and they were all super like tasteful kind of thing. And he was trying to like, you know, kind of ease them in, see if there was like a drop section he could put it in. And at the end of the song, he was like, "What do you think?" He usually asks me, he's like, "What do you think? You want?" And I'm listening. I'm like, take them out.
Keep the thing.
Keep the thing. It does nothing for the song. The only thing it did was give me a moment where somebody be like, "Ooh, look at that," that kind of thing, like that. That does
the
nothing.
one drummer in the back of the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it did nothing for the song. We took it away. Song was dope. Put it in. Song was still fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, it makes no sense. It's this one moment that exists in the song at the end for no purpose. And it was like, in my mind, I was like, 19-year-old Jonathan would have been like, add that to every section, towards the song. And now I'm like, doesn't feel like it's necessary.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I'm like, and I was like, so now when people hear that song, nobody's going to say, oh, who's the drummer on that? Because it literally just sounds like, a beat that's being played, to help, boost the energy of the song.
Right.
And that's fine. Totally okay with that. Happy to have played on it. But my moments where I'm like hoping somebody's going to be like, they're going to study that fill in college, kind of thing. Like,
This is going to be the next Jack and Diane.
yes, like stuff like that. Like I'm okay
Yeah.
with being, and you know what? I think what's going to happen is producers like himself or other people that listen to these songs, if they ever go, they're going to be like, who's the drummer on that? It's exactly what I want to hear on that track. Like, I want to use somebody like that can come in, knock out 8 songs in 2 hours and 3 hours, and then
And
move
that's gonna come from someone that has the experience making music, like producers that are like, oh, that's whoever was capable of doing that. That's what we need.
Mm-hmm.
And all the other flashy stuff. It's like it's not popular. It's
probably the live gigs. I obviously play live, but like the big live gigs with the stick twirling and the the moments of like epic
kinda
stuff.
cringy.
I'm not gonna get that gig, and that's totally okay.
There's a drummer on Instagram, and I'm not gonna mention any names or anything, but he's I don't know where he's from. He has tattoos, and it's probably not the guy you're thinking of with the big beard. Do you know that guy? He's like a like Eastern European dude that's an unbelievable drummer. Like,
Sure, I've seen.
super
Yeah.
fast, crazy, plays one handle and stuff. Anyway, there's another guy that's all about like his hair's going. He puts water all over his drums.
Yeah.
And he just all these stick.
Yeah.
Anytime I watch that stuff now, I'm just like, oh. And you read the comments like, this is amazing. Somebody was like, this is so cringy.
Yeah.
This is hard to watch.
Holy shit. And then the comments that I
People
get
are-
when I cut up a cymbal that was already broken, they're just like, really?
What are you doing?
That could have fed people in third world countries. Like, how? How could this have done that?
I paid for it. I can do whatever I want with it.
Dude, like,
You know what this was before it was this?
My brother gets so angry. He's like, what do they care what we do with these symbols? I'm
I
like,
know.
bro, hey, if they're talking about the page, that means the algorithm is
That's a
working.
good thing, yeah.
But I'm just like, did you ever cut your jeans so they would go over your sneakers? Well, you could have fed a family of 4.
Right.
Somehow.
Right.
I don't know how.
That cloth could have
It's so stupid.
done something.
That's why I hate the internet.
I know.
I hate the internet, but I mean, it is important.
It is. My problem with any of that stuff is people that aren't in the world, like people that don't know anything about drums or anything about music or how music is made or how art is made or anything, commenting on it as if they know what they're talking about. The internet is just filled with people that have no experience about a certain thing that they're watching and pretending like they know everything.
Yeah, I mean, I hardly comment on anybody's thing, but if I
never comment.
if I do, it's like this is like if you got nothing nice to say, just say, like, I don't.
I try even now. I feel like you're just going down. You're hating on things.
Yeah.
It's like just be positive.
That's right.
And be nice and just ignore the other
again,
stuff.
also with age, you get to be just like more of a curmudgeon. So
I know.
I can't wait for that phase.
My wife got me a mug of one of the dwarfs grumpy.
Yeah.
Because I'm grumpy all the
Yeah.
time. And it's like, I might be grumpy, but I have the heart of a dashing hero. So she got me that mug.
I like that.
And I have it every morning. My morning coffee, my grumpy mug.
I hate this mug.
Who sold you it? Yeah.
You turn it around and it's like you're positive.
Yeah, exactly.
Which one are you today? So that's my like feelings of what it's like to be a drummer nowadays.
Yeah, and it's funny, when I was here, I had a hard time understanding all that stuff, which I'm sure is what you're talking about when kids come in and talk to you about maybe not wanting to play music anymore or do things like that. And that was happening with a lot of my friends when I was here. I never fell out of love with it, just doing this. I didn't like when professors would come in and just try to like embarrass you in front of kids, like in ensembles and stuff. Like, I had a bad experience with a bass instructor who was the head of my ensemble, who just like was trying to vibe me out and just like kind of picked apart some of my playing in a class while we were trying to play music, and then goes, you and me, you know, let's play and blah, 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 and would do all this super out stuff to try to fuck me up.
Yeah.
And it was just really embarrassing. Like, and I just did not take stuff like that well. And, you know, there was a little bit of that when I was here. I was just like, well, this just doesn't feel like, for me, the way I'm approaching it, like it's doing me any good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the interesting thing is, it's like in that moment could have been fleeting, but it actually stuck with you.
It stuck with me.
And it
was 14 years ago.
That's
I still don't like that guy.
Yeah, kind of thing. Those are like pivotal moments. But on the side of that, you probably said, you know what, that's not something that I'm going to want to deal with, you know, again. Right. So you find the things that you know, bring you.
Right.
And like for me, that's exactly, I mean, there's always work, but if the work doesn't feel like it's going to be a good fit for me, or it's going to be a stressful and unpleasant experience making music, that whatever $100 or $200 that I'm going to make doing that, it's not worth it. I'll make it up somewhere else. And I'd rather work with somebody and make less money and really enjoy.
Yeah.
Because you don't want, those are moments, luckily for you, you didn't go, you know, this shit, I don't want to do this anymore. If I'm going to have to deal with these people, you moved on from it. But like,
well, I took it as a like, oh, this person is not a good teacher.
Yeah.
This person is here to prove a point, like that he's better than everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's fine, and he is. He's really great.
Yeah.
But like, this is not a supportive way to teach. Obviously, I was having an issue with my groove and my time, but the way he tried to make me understand that was to embarrass me,
which was
the wrong way to do, because we're all here to learn, you know, even just throughout life, and even more so here.
Yeah.
Like, nobody has it all figured out, and there's obviously something going on.
Even after you graduate.
Exactly.
All the bass faculties that watch this episode are going to start texting and be like,
it's like, who is it?
I'm really sorry that, like, was that me? That
I'll tell you who it was afterward. He might not even be here anymore. I don't know.
But yeah, it's a poor way to teach, because you're supposed to inspire and get people excited about what's next in their career. And you know what's actually really nice about, you know, I deal with the percussion students, which is where my world is. But I've been here a long time, and over the years, other departments, you know, know about what I do and what I've done, and, you know, and then the career center and all that stuff. So I sort of got on this list where I start getting students sent to me, like sort of an unofficial advising level. This isn't curriculum based. It's more like life career based. So like I'll get a email from someone like, hey, I was recommended that I come, like, you know, talk to you about some stuff, and we chat. And it's really funny because there was a point in my life, not too long ago, but like a while ago, where it was like, I don't want to give anybody advice because I may lose an opportunity,
Right.
you know, from that. And I've gotten to the point now where I was like, this is actually a really enjoyable part of my present like state in this industry, which is to inspire and mentor and help advise the next generation,
Yeah.
like what to do. And I actually,
You're the boots on the ground.
I love sitting on panels. I love doing podcasts. I love talking about, hey, this is what I did. Might not be the path for you, but you know, this is some recommendations I have. And then I see, you know, maybe a little while later, they're like, hey, I did all this stuff you told me. Now I'm like, got this really great, you know, gig, and I do it on social media with people that message me. I actually feel more like satisfied or just like this feeling of like, that's awesome.
That's great.
I really love that whatever I said helped get this person an opportunity that they may or may not have gotten. And so that just makes me feel like I'm maturing and growing up as a person in this world. And I always looked at people who do the same thing for me and sort of try to help me out, even though it could, you know, mean that they don't get an opportunity because of it. But I think that like there just comes this point where you go, hey, I've done a lot, I've accomplished a lot, and I'm really happy with where I am. How can I do more? How can I like give back to people? And I'm fortunate that like I got this space to chat with kids, and like I love that they look at me as someone that's, you know, at least knowledgeable enough to say, you know, or heed my advice a little bit.
Or they're
open to listen.
open to listening to it, because a lot of times, you know, you run into an 18-year-old kid, 16-year-old kid, and it's like, no one can tell me anything.
My 8-year-old daughter
or whatever.
doesn't listen to anything I say.
I know,
So
my son doesn't listen to me at all. It's crazy.
but yeah, so that's Berklee. So
I think that's the most important part of it. It's like passing, like making the younger generation like have a wherewithal and be good people going forward, and knowing that there's people that they can talk to and look up to and get advice from.
Yeah.
And to grow into a better, not only player, but person to be around.
Yeah.
Which I think is super important.
How was your sort of pivoting? But how was your tour that you guys
Super long
just
tour?
Yeah. Is that what it was called? The
Super long tour. It was great, man. You know, the older I get, and obviously the older my son gets and stuff, it's harder and harder to be away for long periods of time. And you know, I kind of have to like amp myself up for it. Every fall is like, I wouldn't say it's a struggle. Like, I love being out there, I love playing and everything, but it's like, all right, I'm going to work out here, and we have to go and play the songs for these people that don't get to see us very often, and get out there around and play the shows and travel, and
they're looking forward to that sort of fall time period as well.
Right. So you forget until you're out there that it's like, oh, we're out here, we're playing, we're connecting with people. People are singing the words. People are happy to be here. It's like they look forward to it every year. And you know, you just get past that being out there for a long time. But, you know, it is a grind. It gets like emotional at times. And like you were saying before, you're roommates with these people for 4 weeks, and it's just like, you know, you want to be a good contributing member of a group, and you want to be you want to work hard, you want to contribute, you don't want to be a problem, you know, God forbid. But, you know, long story short, it was good. All the shows were good, and
You know,
I feel like I played well.
We'll see.
More or less.
I've watched some video. I'm sure.
It's like,
You know, it's actually an interesting.
could be better.
Story, which is like this sort of like this pivotal moment happened, over the last, it's not like there's one moment, but just sort of over the last few years. And, I've done a lot of cool things, had a lot of great opportunities, but, there's certain bucket list things that I haven't achieved yet.
Sure.
And I'm still waiting for that, that big call and, stuff like, sort of that phone call, that quote unquote phone call that's, catapults you to the next level kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this is leading up to this, this moment where I get my opportunity kind of thing. So there's a lot of frustrations. There's a lot of, like you said, stuff where you're just like, this is hard, And I remember talking to, it's a perspective thing. And I remember talking to a good friend of mine who, I won't mention names, but he's done everything times 1,000 on my bucket list.
Sure.
Literally everything. He's probably played at the White House 12 times, Super Bowls, plays in front of hundreds of thousands of people all the time. He has the best gig and gigs. Yeah. He actually, when he's not on the main gig, his backup gigs are just as large as the main gig.
I have a similar friend.
So, and it's awesome. And he is by far one of the nicest, most humble, kindest person. Does not treat me any different than he would treat somebody who was also on that level. And we've had many discussions over the years of like this, him always being like, oh man, like I'll play I'll post a picture, or he's like, hey man, how was your gig this weekend? Like he'll like, how was your gig? I don't know, it was fine. 27 people, out there kind of thing. He's like, that's awesome, dude. Like, that's so cool. And then like when I go into the studio, he's like, oh dude, I can't wait to hear like the rec. And so a lot of times I'm like, are you just like,
are you fucking with
you're
me?
just fucking with me, dude? Like, what? Like, this is it. It's like, no, dude, like, I love it. You make like such cool like records. You're always working with different artists all the time. And it took me a long time to be like, I feel like, am I like, you're like, hey buddy, great job, go get him, knucklehead, kind of thing. And over the years, like, no, he's genuinely like, looks at what I have in my life as just as wide-eyed and like envy, maybe not envy, as I look at his life. And we've had lots of discussions about this kind of thing. And I'm like, dude, how do you look at what I do as even remotely in comparison to what the cool things that you do? And we would go through the gamut of like why the grass is greener on the. He looks at what I do, dude. You have your own company. You work at Berklee. You talk to students. You make a different record pretty much every night. You play really cool shows. You play in bands with your friends. You did the Seth Meyers show. You've gotten awards for Session Musician of the Year like every year, kind of thing. All this stuff, and I'm like, dude, you play with so and so, and you're like leaving for Dubai to play for like the palaces, and all this tomorrow, and then the next day you're on the Super Bowl, and all of these records you made when you were in LA are like the most listened to records in the world. And he's like, dude, do you know what it's like to have like celebrate your kid's birthday in the airport, like because you have to hop on a next flight to go to another country, so the only time you can meet them is like they have to come to the airport and like meet you at like whatever restaurant they have in your terminal. He's like, or be on vacation with your family and have to like leave early because you got to get on a flight to go to this thing and do it for 10 years. You live out of a suitcase, never see the moments that, and a lot of it was kid stuff, but also like, do you know what it's like to never just get to sleep in your bed? I was like, stay in 5-star hotels. It's like, but I want my bed, like, I want my...
Still not my home.
I want to go to my home. I want to wake up and watch, TV and not have And the funniest thing was, he's off the road now. He does little things here and there that are significant, but they're like for a week, or like, whereas before, he was gone for 250 days.
Like, are we talking about the same person?
A year. And he was like, no, he doesn't do that. Now he's home all the time and he does the things he wants. And he's like, plays in a cover band that plays like once a month on a Saturday. And I'm like, what do you think? He's like, bro, I set up my kit myself in a corner where I have to like step over the bass drum to get to, and like things that I have to do
Things that I hate.
do every day. But it's just always perspective. And then same thing with my producer. I was talking to him when we were talking about like, I'm like, well, I don't have that gig. He's like, maybe that's not your path. There's a lot of people who have that, who wish they had 90% of the things that you have. And talking to people, in what my friend would say, he was like, dude, I'm not saying that what you have is, or what I have is better. I was like, you have to experience. You need to be in front of 100,000 people and just experience what it's like to look up. It's awesome. He's like, but after you do it, go back to the stuff that you're doing, because what you're doing is so amazing and enviable that like you get a say in what the song is going to be sounding like. You get to like, come up with your own drum parts that aren't told, like that aren't like, told you what to do. You're not like told to be in certain, places at any given time. He's like,
I talk a lot about that, like sideman versus leader, or versus like, songwriter or creators.
And he's like, when people talk about you as a drummer, they go, oh, Jonathan Allman. They're like, that's the end of the story. It's Jonathan Allman is Jonathan Allman. Yes, he plays with these people, but we're talking about Jonathan Allman.
Right.
He's like, when people talk to me, they're talking about the people that I play with. Not
play for.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They're not like, oh, so-and-so. They're like, oh, this is so-and-so's drummer.
Right.
Kind of thing. Whereas
that was a very difficult, so that's a kind of a lesson learned over the years. Like when I was playing my band in Boston, Love in Stockholm, it was a group. It was Love in Stockholm. Every part's equal. Everyone has a say. And that's a beautiful thing. And then after that, I played with some singer-songwriters that were similar experiences, but it's like, it's this person's band. And then I had another singer-songwriter experience where the lines were a little blurred for me, not for the name of the thing that you were going to see. And that was a hard lesson to learn, because it's like you develop this not ownership, but you develop this feeling of pride behind what you're doing, and then you realize this is not mine. I don't have any ownership over this. I'm just here to fill a role, to be a supporting cast member of this thing. And I just wasn't, I don't know what my expectations were, but I wasn't like okay with it.
Yeah.
So I had to get out.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing with your buddy, because I have a buddy with a very similar thing that's like, he'll come out, I shouldn't say this, but he will have those experiences with massive, huge audiences and stuff, and he has a great time, but then I hear him talking about, it's like, I gotta go do this thing, gotta fly here, gotta fly there, he's like never home, and and he did a similar thing. He kind of changed what he was doing, so he's not traveling around as much, and he has a home studio and all that stuff. And but it's a lot about perspective and knowing what you want to get out of it, and managing your expectations, and like when you have your own ownership over your thing, so you have more of a guiding, you're behind the steering wheel, really, which I think is what that dude is saying and what he's getting at. It's like, that's so important. It's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter that you haven't done those things. I want to play Red Rocks. I want to play Hollywood Bowl. I want to do all these things. I want to play in front of in a stadium. But I also would much rather sacrifice those things for being home with my family and watching and being home for my son's birthday.
Yeah.
And like, that's way better.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the funny thing is, he said, because he was also one of the guest drummers for Seth Meyers, and I was one of the guest drummers. And I was like, I remember time be like, yeah, but like
That is such a cool, awesome
yeah,
thing,
it was super
too.
super fun.
That's
It was-
rad.
Yeah, and I remember being like, well, like no, you can say when we're standing next to each other and somebody goes, oh, who do you play with or for? And he gets to rifle off all these people, and the shock value is like, what? And then they ask me, and I'm like, well, they're really great, but you may not have heard of them.
Yeah.
He goes, how about that? And he's like, yeah, but listen to this. He goes, when I and everybody else who did late night with Seth Meyers, they go, oh, and this week we have so-and-so who plays with so-and-so.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
goes, we have Jonathan Allman, 8-time
Period.
session musician of the year.
Right.
They asked you as Jonathan Ulman to do it, they didn't ask you because you play with or for this superstar artist. And he goes, and I was like, the way that he
a big
said it
deal.
like that, I was like, that's a thing. He's like, I will always be so-and-so who played for, big name artist there kind of thing. Right. And you will be Jonathan Allman, who has done all these cool things as Jonathan Allman.
Right.
Without this band
Right.
or artist that catapulted you to name recognition kind of thing.
Yeah.
So again,
I think it's very important to guide your own ship. I really do.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like you're in control of your destiny. You know,
and I was like, no, I get it, man. But seriously, can you recommend me for a fucking gig?
Yeah,
because
can you-
I need to get this out of my system, kind of thing. But I appreciate what you're saying. But like, let's stop.
That's cool,
Can
but
you
you're
just call
full of shit.
like Brian Eno or Rick Rubin, these people like in your phone kind of thing?
in your Rolodex.
Yeah, in your Rolodex. I was like, you met Obama like 3 times. Okay,
Yeah.
like, let's not talk.
Yeah,
about
what
this
are we
anymore.
doing? I
But-
don't need the pat on the back.
It's funny, but he's such a good person, and I love when. And I think I would be the same way. Like, no matter where I get to my career, there's a humility that's just ingrained.
Yeah.
And you know what that humility comes from? Not being an overnight, like, success. Being a nobody one day and then being in the spotlight the next day. Not have.
Right.
I mean, you and I and all of our friends, I mean.
We'll be able to handle the success when we get it.
We'll be constantly grateful no matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank goodness for the NFL for having the Super Bowl and allowing me to play it, kind of thing.
I'll only forget about half of my friends.
That's it. I mean, I hardly get to call them now, so I think they'd all be. But I'm saying, like, that's.
Yeah.
I have one more. I don't know how long this podcast is, but I have another
Doesn't matter.
great story. So, in this story,
Probably wrap at the end of this because, yeah.
yeah. So this is I love this story. So the band that when I was 11 years old made me decide this is what I want to do in my life. I'm gonna play music because I love this band and I want to be in this band. And the band was Pearl Jam. 10 had just come out. And so I've been playing drums for a couple of years. And when Pearl Jam 10 came out, I was learning about 90. It came out in 91, but like 92, 93, I was like, this is what I want to do. And I learned that record front to back, like every song on it in order, the exact way that it was on. Because I was like, at the time, very certain that I was going to be at a Pearl Jam show. And it was, I think Dave Abruzzi was the drummer at the time. And he couldn't show up. And Eddie Vedder was like, does anybody know how to play this song? And I was like, So, like, it's actually funny. I'll send you some stuff, but, like, there's been, like, NBC did a story on this, this Pearl Jam story for my kind of thing. And because it's such a funny moment. So, that was it for me what I wanted to do, and it was that record and that band that did it for me. So many years later, I was working at City Sports and in Boston, R.I.P. to City Sports, and
One on in Alston?
Boylston Street. I don't know if it was ever in Alston, but it was.
Okay, I thought there was one next to the Paradise a while ago. But
Yes, I think there was.
Okay.
I'll Ave.
Yeah.
And so I'm working the front, whatever, and fucking Eddie Vedder comes in. I'm like 21. Eddie Vedder comes in. No shit. The story's walking around. Like, it was when he kind of looked like Russell Crowe.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's walking around. He finally comes up to the front of the thing, buys a couple T-shirts, because they always stay at the Four Seasons, which was right next to. I only know this because I'm a fucking super fan. You know, kind of thing. And he comes up and he's like, well, and get this kind of stuff. And my buddy, who I actually play in Still Gold, my hip hop band, I was working with the MC for that, and he's like, say something, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, I was like, you're Eddie Vedder, and he's like, oh yeah, man, kind of whatever. And like, not for nothing, like in like 30 seconds, I completely blacked out, and I told him every single thing that I've ever wanted to say to Eddie Vedder. I was like, when I was 12 years old, I learned your record because I thought your drummer can drum, but of course you kind of drum because you know, whatever. But I learned you was the most, just like threw up everywhere on him, and he was so gracious, like
that's so sweet.
So gracious, and he's like,
that.
we're playing, Great Woods. We're playing Great Woods 3 nights. Are you coming to shows? And I was like, no, I can't. Tickets were expensive. I was like, no, I got to work this week or whatever. He's like, oh, well, what's your name? Write it down. Like, maybe we'll figure out whatever he's saying. I'm not listening at this point, So I wrote my name down, whatever, and he went. And at the time, I would work at City Sports, college during the day, City Sports in the afternoon, and then I would valet at night.
Yeah.
And so I valeted with my best friend. So I ran out of the store, and I had to work that night. And I called him. I was like, bro, is there any way you can work for me tonight? And he's like, I can't, dude. My dad's in town. I was like, shit, dude. I don't know. He's like, what would happen? I was like, bro, I just met Eddie Vedder. I have to go to Grey Woods. He goes, bro, you met Eddie Vedder? I have to come with you to Grey Woods. I was like, but your dad's in town. He's like, nah, dude, I just didn't want to work for you. He was like, and so we both quit I quit my job that night at the ballet, but it was like that job where you could call back the next day and be like really sorry, man. I went to see Pearl Jam.
Right,
and
right.
They were fine.
Yeah.
So we all go down and everybody's partying at Great Woods because we already had friends that were already down there. So we're like, we just got to go. And by this time, all of my friends knew that I had met Eddie Vedder, and everybody knows this story of Pearl Jam and Eddie Vedder for me. And so we're down there partying, we're looking for tickets and all this stuff, and they're playing with the Buzzcocks that night, and it was they were sold out, of course, and no tickets were available, and everybody was going in, and my friend's like, hey dude, sorry, it didn't work out, but we can kind of hear from here.
Yeah.
And my best friend who I went with was like, bro, didn't you give him your name?
Did you check will call?
Yeah, check will call or something. I'm like, dude, there's no, what are you talking about? But a little liquid courage at that point got me to go over to will call, and there's there's the regular box office, and then there's will call for so we went up.
Yeah, the list, yeah.
And I'm sitting with my buddy, and the lady's like, hey, how can I help you? I was like, I think I don't know, but I don't know if there might be tickets.
You're like Ricky Bobby's dad when he goes up, I think there's some tickets here.
Yeah, well, I was just like, what am I supposed to say? And she's like, who would have left them for you? And I'm like, you didn't make me say Eddie Vedder, Edward Vedder.
Edmund.
Ed, I said Eddie Vedder, and she's like, what's your name? And I was like, Jonathan Allman, and she's like, yes. They called and said that you might be coming to the show tonight, and I was like, really? She's like, yeah. They said put these aside for Jonathan Allman, and I have the envelope that says for Jonathan from Eddie, and they were 8th row. I'm still in my City Sports shirt, and so the moral of this story was, this is a guy who does not need me to go to his show.
No.
Does not need anybody ever to do a favor for anybody. And he was like, when you meet your heroes, you're like, even if they're a dick, you're just like, well, that sucks, but it's still like cool that I met this person that was like an idol to me.
Yeah.
I met somebody who was just as awesome as I hoped they would be. And he's someone who is like,
so awesome.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for these Jonathan Allmans, And so like that to me at 21 said, you have to be humble no matter what, no matter how big you are.
Yeah.
And I've seen Eddie Vedder a million times. I don't know if that story ever like made it to him, but the funniest thing is I'm friends with David Abruzzi on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I got to tell, David's the drummer who I wanted to not be able to show up at the gig when I was 12.
I wanted to break your legs.
I said I did want to tell you something. And I told him, I was like, I really wanted you to be sick or something like that. And he's like, man, I wish I was sick that night that you like came so that you could have experienced that kind of thing. It was just like, these are people who I put so high up on. And it's not that Pearl Jam is, it's not like, I'm a hip hop guy. Like I love hip hop and like my favorite band's probably Pearl Jam, but it's also probably not like my favorite.
Right.
But they're the most important band.
I had
see that shirt. That's when they played Fenway.
Oh, dude. So was that the one that Mark Giuliano was playing cowbell at? It was like a few years back.
No, that's what they just were here this past summer.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this a few years back. That's fantastic. I went to go see them, and I was never like a big Pearl Jam fan. Like, I was never a Nirvana fan. Like anything like that. I didn't get into until maybe a little bit later, and my wife and I were like, let's go see the concert. She was working at the Residence Inn Fenway, right across the street from Fenway Park. She was AGM there and would always get hooked up with tickets and stuff for all different things, baseball games and stuff like that. And we got tickets to go see Pearl Jam. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's see where it's like. One of the best concerts I've ever been to.
I've seen them 50 times.
Unbelievable. It was so good.
Yeah.
Completely exceeded my expectations. I would love to go see them again. It was so great. So great. And Chamberlain was the drummer. Like it was very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
I took my daughter, because I went to both Fenway shows this year, and I took my daughter to the first one, and she was just like, she knows a few of their songs, but she's like, I'm so happy to be watching the band that my dad loves so much with my dad at Fenway. It was like, it could not have been any more, and the funny thing is like my dream, my like number one bucket list is to play with Pearl Jam on stage kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying never, but there's a long shot that would ever happen. But I've scaled my dream back to being like, it'd be really cool if one day Eddie let me like play tambourine, in the green room, with him, because that would be my full circle.
Dude, we got
moment.
like, I was talking to...
Does Eddie watch this podcast?
Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine. I'll mention it to him.
Yeah, please, Eddie, come on.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I was talking to Ed Velasquez for the podcast from Q, and they do the Hot Stove Club music thing, and Eddie Vedder is there.
I've done Hot Stove the 1 year that he
wasn't there.
I know. I could talk about like,
you gotta figure it out.
Talk about like parallel universes.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go into that on episode two, but this
can be figured out.
Broke my heart that I didn't get invited back when he was doing the Hot Stove, but then again, my friend said, that's your dream is not to play Hot Stove with Eddie on stage. Your dream is to play with Pearl Jam. So stick with your dream and follow your dream. Don't
diminish your dream.
Yeah, diminish it just because you could be, it sort of was with him, but it was for this other event kind of thing. I'm like, but
no, we're going. Go for it.
But the humility part was like that.
That is such an amazing story.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so great.
He's such a cool dude.
Yeah, I imagine. I have this. I'd like to talk to Peter Gammons and also Chris Berman. So both sports guys, and I love sports. I love Boston, all Boston sports. I'm a huge baseball fan and Red Sox fan and all that. And Chris Berman used to stay at my wife's hotel.
Oh, sick.
So we get a Christmas card from Chris Berman and his family every year, and we got to hang out, and we got him a bottle of Bushmills, which is his favorite. And I keep trying to convince my wife to all right, send him a text. Jesse wants to talk to you for the podcast, and he has all these stories about Glenn Fry from the Eagles because he loves music. Yeah. And we talked a little bit about it, and it was just kind of tough because we were in the lobby of a hotel, and people kept coming up to him, and he's a great guy. Yeah. Super big personality.
It'll happen.
I hope so.
It will.
But my wife is just I'm not gonna bother Chris Berman, so you can totally.
It's a tough.
It's one of those things, And I get it. You want to keep a relationship.
I can let you know when he's in the bathroom, and we'll lock the door and let you get in there real quick.
Right, but you have to ask him. You have to be the one to do it, because I'm not putting my neck out.
She's going to throw you the alley-oop. You just have to.
I have to put it down. Yeah, exactly. So, but
we'll go to a game. I have Red Sox season tickets. Part season, so we'll go to a game this week.
Really? Yeah. Oh, dude, I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
I love it.
So fun.
I was thinking of you the other day because I was on a big New Era hat kick.
Hell yeah.
So I bought a bunch of hats because they're on sale for Black Friday and stuff. And I got that one.
Hell yeah.
And I also got the White Bee one because I have a million.
Fitted?
Yeah.
Oh,
I have a million. I have the city.
They're so expensive.
They're really expensive.
$50 now. I bought these when, not this one, but I originally started wearing the Black Bee hat when they were $22.
Yeah. So you can get around that time of the year, you can get them for that much.
I'm going to start doing that.
Black Friday, if you're looking to get some, then they have all the really out there teams.
Yeah, they do. I do that one for when I'm feeling
normal,
you
might get called up on the field.
Fan, and this one is and it's actually fun when I did.
They might need a right fielder.
When I did the Seth Meyers show, because most of those people don't wear hats on stage, and I was like, I have to. This is my
it's your thing.
And they were like, that's fine.
I have my White Bee hat, and the thing I almost wore it, be I want to dress like Jonathan Allman today.
Said no one ever.
Because I was in the car one day. I was we both have beards. I was I look like him. It's like we're twinsies.
Dude, I can't wear it. It's just if I put on another hat, people are are you okay?
Yeah, is everything all right?
Is that all right?
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I appreciate you coming.
Dude, thanks so much for doing this.
This is great.
This is great. This is so great to be, just be down here. I didn't have I didn't have a bad Berklee experience, but I didn't get out of it what I think I could have gotten at a different point of my life.
Yeah.
But it is nice to be back because I love Boston. I love being here. I miss living here.
Yeah.
A lot. So
it's cool.
It's very expensive. It's so expensive. Yeah. It's crazy how expensive it is. But who knows? Maybe someday.
Yeah.
Someday. Dude.
Well,
that was weird. We got to cut.
Do we come in this
Let's go on. Let's go.
Do you ever know the one where you're supposed to look at their elbow? Not so much.
I don't know.
Let's just cut that whole section.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Well, that was very fun. Thank you so much to Jonathan Allman for hanging out with me and inviting me to his home away from home, his office at Berklee. It was so good to be back in Boston and back at Berklee, hanging out, walking around, driving around, finding a great parking spot. Now I am off to Watertown to go meet my wife for a nice lunch. So I'm going to be driving down Newberry Street, heading to the highway, and on my way home, and that'll do it. Check out the newsletter. I just wanted to send some love out to the people of LA dealing with the fires. There's been, it's unbelievable and so horrible, the disaster that's happened there, and just the scale and scope of people that have lost homes and lost everything. I mentioned in the newsletter that two very good friends of mine have lost their home out in LA, and they have a GoFundMe, which I linked in the newsletter, and I'll link it down below in this video on YouTube. So you can check that out if you'd like to help support them. If you can, go out and try to help somebody out if you're connected to anybody out there dealing with the fires. I'm sure everyone is. or even if you're not, you just want to lend a helping hand. So that's it for me. It's great to be back. 2025. Hope you have the best year ever. That's all for me. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.